Hi guys and welcome back to the Mighty Blues. My name is of course Cameron and welcome back today to another live stream. As you can see, I'm joined by Mike today. We're here to sit down and talk about a really serious topic in football. I'm sure you've read it. If you haven't read it, I've left a link to it in the description down below. Michael Keane has had an interview with the BBC in partner, I believe it was, with CALMS, the campaign against living miserably, and he's spoken about his time at Everton Football Club and specifically his struggles when he first joined the football club in 2017, his struggles with mental health, and the fact that it basically got to a point where he struggled to leave the house. And it brought something up really, and it brought it sort of made me think in my mind. I thought that, we have to understand as a fan base, as Evertonians and as football fans in general, not just Evertonians, but whether you're a Liverpool fan, a Man United fan, an Everton fan, we have to understand that footballers are just human beings like the rest of us. And okay, yes, they're paid an awful lot more money than any of us will probably ever be paid. Yes, they've got this celebrity status, and yes, they're so far removed in a lot of ways from normality and from normal life that me and Mike and you guys maybe used to, but it doesn't mean that they're not human beings, and it doesn't mean that they haven't got feelings. And I think there is this stigma around footballers and football fans as to that it's a mix between football fans paying a lot of money to go and watch games and football players being paid a lot of money to play the game, and it sort of creates this negative situation where fans sometimes think they can say whatever they want because they pay their money and the footballers are paid an awful lot of money. And again, it's a difficult one because it's understandable at times. Listen, if you've gone and paid £70 to go and watch your team and there's a player that's waltzing around and doesn't look interested, you've got every right to have a go at that player and constructively state that, why aren't you doing it? Why aren't you running around? Why aren't you giving your all? But, we've all seen it. Mike's seen it. I've seen it myself. Sometimes it does get a little bit out of hand, especially on social media these days, especially with, this whole social media situation where you can literally hide behind a blank picture and nobody will ever know it's you. And it's definitely something, to discuss because, we've seen a player of our own come out and discuss his own mental health struggles since joining Everton Football Club, and I thought who better to talk to it about and who better to have that discussion with than Mike, who I'm sure you all know. Mike has been absolutely fantastic when it comes to helping out others that are struggling with mental health. I'm sure if you're on Twitter especially, there's a lot of people on Twitter, especially in the last sort of 18 months, that have struggled and openly struggled and put out tweets, openly, calling for help. And Mike's always been one of those people that have been straight in there, offering his help, offering his phone number out to talk to people over the phone, just to give somebody to talk to. Because the best thing and the most important thing to do when you're struggling with mental health is to come out and is to talk. And unfortunately, not everybody has somebody to talk to. So there's no better person to talk about it than Mike, really. So before we get over to Mike, I want to read a little bit of the article and a little bit about what Michael Keane has said. So the BBC approached him and the article first starts by saying, having opened up himself, he is now working with mental health charities to encourage others to seek help. Obviously talking about Michael Keane. And Michael Keane said, I didn't want to go out, didn't want to see anyone. I felt a bit embarrassed with how things were going on the pitch, so I didn't want to be seen anywhere, didn't want to do anything. I was keeping it in for a long time, working hard, turning things around on the football pitch, but in the end, it all sort of got on top of me. I ended up not having a full breakdown, but I was basically in tears telling my family how I felt. That was a big breakthrough moment where I sort of got to my rock bottom, which he quotes. From there on, I've got better and better with the help of my family and my friends, and I started speaking to a sports psychologist, which I still do now regularly to keep on top of it. He also, further on in the article, goes on to talking about he wanted to be there with his teammates when we were going through the tough period, and he also says he thinks that it's hard when you've never done it before, so pride might stop you from doing it. You might think if you speak out, you're showing a soft side. It's completely normal and completely fine to do that, and once you do it, once you realise yourself, a lot of people do keep it in. I'd urge them, if they're struggling really badly, to speak to somebody, because I know from personal experience now how that has helped me. So that's a really powerful interview and a really powerful article to read, especially when it's coming from a player in your, of your own club, of your own team, who we may be guilty of criticising. Now, I've never attacked the player personally or said anything that I deem too, serious that a player couldn't take on the end. Obviously, if a player has a bad game, you criticise their performance, you say that they mightn't be good enough or they need to do better, but there is certain people that do bridge that line, and Michael Keane's a good example of a player that's come out and said, listen, it gets to us like it would get to anybody else. So obviously, initially, what are your thoughts on reading that, Mike? I'm sure you read it very similar to me and thought, listen, this is something that we have to start talking about, and we have to start realising that even though these players are on big pedestals and getting paid a lot of money and living a life that, me and you and a lot of other people could only dream of, it doesn't mean that they're just absolutely bulletproof and that, they have got no struggles themselves.
No, I think, so firstly, Michael Keane's interview with me really resonated for a few reasons. Personality-wise, Michael Keane's always seemed like quite a nice, genuine, open guy. He seemed to always be prepared to engage with fans. He's been prepared to talk openly about his issues. And equally, he's been prepared to, say if he's had a bad game. He's always came out and been fairly honest. And he's done this again here, which is great. Because footballers, as you rightly say, we put them on a pedestal. They get paid hundreds of £1,000s a week. They get... People seem to think that just because you earn a lot of money, you have no worries. There's a saying that you never see a sad man in a Ferrari. Yeah. But actually, pull it all back. Michael Keane may have a family. He may now be thinking about the times when he's wanted to play football and where he's been scared that he's not going to get back in the Everton team, where he come in with a massive price tag of 30 million. It doesn't matter whether Michael Keane's on 70 grand a week. He may feel pressure. Now, I know, to be fair to you, you do not go in on players. You don't really. You don't overly criticise players. I've been guilty of it. Toffee TV have been guilty of it. I would say most fan channels are guilty of crossing the line at some point. I once come out and just went, Ronald Koeman's a complete cunt. Completely over the line. That's completely unacceptable. And you do forget that line. And we do forget that players are human beings. For different reasons, we all have worries, we all have pressures, we all have stresses. And Michael Keane coming out openly, brutally honest, and saying how low he felt, how shit he felt. He was talking about the fact that it was the injury, and I think it was a gash on his knee that sort of brought all these feelings. And you think it's something that little can affect someone mentally that bad. It's a serious issue for that person. So now you look at Michael Keane and you might look at him differently. You might go, maybe he might have a bad game against Liverpool at home, or maybe he has a bad game against whoever. But we have to take note that he's a human, and we are all at times guilty of not doing that through social media, through our videos, through different avenues. It's so easy to sit there, throw pelters at players just because we pay their wages to do it, or we pay money to the club to watch them. It's a difficult line. It really is, because we all have worries. My worry, for example. So today I woke up shit. My wedding was meant to be today. Instead, I'm talking to you. Instead of being absolutely pissed right now in cost.
I'd be fuming as well.
Absolutely. Dancing with the woman that I class to be, the woman of my dreams, the woman I love. And then I've been furloughed. So today is a bad day for me. So I have worries today. I wouldn't say I'm too hung up on them, but I have worries. Michael Keane might not have worries about football, about money, might not even have worries about playing during COVID-19, but he may worry about disappointment or something else. And that's where people just don't appreciate it, just because they think, right, football that equals loads of money equals no problems.
Yeah, I agree, spot on. And I think you bring a really, really important point up there about emotion. And football is such a massively, emotional sport, a massively emotional business, because you've got fans of football clubs who have more than likely, a lot of them, been fans for the entirety of their life. That's being passed through fatherhoods and grandfatherhoods, and even if not, fans of football clubs, even if you've only been a fan for 10 years, you've got that emotional connection, with the players and with the football club, and you want to see the football club do well. And there's nothing it is not a nicer feeling for me and for you, I'm sure, and for everybody else as an Evertonian, is to see a player playing for Everton Football Club, and you can see that playing for Everton Football Club means to that player what it would mean to you if you were on the pitch. Richarlison's a great example. And that's the positive side of the emotional sort of spectrum, I assume. Yeah. The negative side is that when you see a player have a bad performance, when you see a player, maybe turn his back on a situation, we don't think about, hang on, what's that player going through mentally? Has that player got any struggles? A good example of it, again, further, was Luca Dean a little bit early on in the year. Lost his granddad. He had a period of about 2 or 3 weeks where he was really poor. It's very, very clear that the reason he was poor is because he had other things on his mind. But we didn't think about that because the emotion taught us to say, hang on, what's going on with this player? Why isn't he performing for our football club? And the reason for that is because, like you said, you're so tied into the football club and you don't think about anything else, and that's why certain comments are made, and like you said, I've been guilty of doing it. I mightn't have done it on stream, I mightn't have done it on video, but I've been guilty of probably saying things that have gone a little bit over the line before, whether it be sitting on my couch watching the game, or whether it be watching it in the pub when a player's made a mistake or a player hasn't looked interested. I don't know that player's not interested. They might just have 100 million other things going on in their life. So whenever there's that much emotion involved, the line gets massively blurred, and you don't know where it is to step over it, because you don't think that the whole point of being nice and making sure you're not saying anything to hurt somebody's feelings is actually taking a step back and realising what you're saying before you say it. Whereas when there's that much emotion involved, certainly in a football setting, there's no time to think. You don't think, you just say what your emotion feels, and that's a negative, but sometimes can be a positive as well. So I massively agree with you on that one. And like you said, listen, the money situation, Michael Keane mightn't have any struggles about money, and he probably doesn't. He's probably on enough money now to see him sorted for the rest of his life. But I was thinking about this before when I was sort of writing a few notes about the live stream and what we're going to talk about, and I thought, listen, I've got OCD. I've had OCD all my life, and I've got various OCDs, worries about the state of my phone, putting my phone down in certain positions, my computer, my PlayStation, various things. There's too many to go on. I'd be here for about 4 days naming them all. I know for a fact 100% that if I was being paid £100,000 a week, I would still have those issues. If I was being paid £100 million a week, I would still have those issues. If somebody come to me now and went, there's a card, Cameron, it's a big fat aluminium card, gold card, whatever, you never have to worry about money ever again. You never have to pay for anything ever again. I can guarantee you I'm still worrying about the position that my phone is in on my desk, because those things don't just go away when you've got loads of money. So it's a really insightful piece, and you make a fantastic point about emotion there.
And the other thing as well is, for example, you are possibly in a slightly better situation than most, just because of the people that you particularly work with, i.e. your dad. However, if I went to my boss or any of the guys in the stream, went to their boss and they says, look, I'm not on my game today, I'm struggling mentally, I do not feel there is enough out there in this world, football club, employers out there, for people to say, do you know what, have a day off, go and relax, chill out, tell me what your problem is, can the business help? Don't get me wrong, some businesses are trying more to do that, some are trying to bridge that gap, but I'm telling you now, Luca Dean during that 3 or 4 week period was terrible. And it's not a criticism of his, because he had so much shit going on at home. He lost someone that, as far as I knew, was an absolute role model to that man. And I'm telling you now, if I lost my granddad, it would break me. It would absolutely break me. We lost Harriet's granddad and my great uncle within a quick succession earlier in the year, literally first month of the year. I was on my arse. People don't appreciate the fact that when a footballer steps on that pitch, was it right that he was put on that pitch? Yeah. For them 4 weeks, could Leighton Baines have gone to the Marco Silva at the time, I think it was, and said, look, he's not in a good place, boss. Let me step in for him. We need to support him. Yeah. Could the captain of Everton Football Club walk up to Luca Dean and say, mate, are you all right? We don't get to know any of that. We don't get to know if Luca Dean said to Marco Silva at the time, I want to play for my granddad, or I don't want to play for my granddad. And then you also don't know if Luca Dean said to Marco Silva, I do want to play for my granddad, but Marco Silva knew he would be awful. But by Marco Silva not playing, it would make the situation worse. Marco Silva, any manager, any board, any company can be in such a difficult situation over this.
Yeah.
And there's just not enough awareness to it. And everyone, at some point, even if you suffer with mental health of any kind, you said you suffer with OCD. I have anxiety. I really struggle with anxiety all the time. I worry about losing my job. I worry about putting food on the table. I worry about all sorts of shit. Yeah. You only get stronger if, one, you reach out, and two, you support your friends. Now, you saying to me, Mike, I struggle putting my phone down in certain situations. Well, I'm not going to say to you when we next get in the fan zone, I'm not going to wind you up and stick my phone in a fuck off situation that's going to drive you mad, because you wouldn't do it as a mate, would you? Yeah. So people have to open up about their struggles, how bad they are. You have to do it.
Yeah, and it's apt that this article's come out at the time it has. Obviously, it's come out since we've been in lockdown. I'm not too sure when the interview actually was. I don't know if it was done... Pardon me. I don't know if it was done over the phone. I don't know if it was done on Zoom. I don't know how it's being done. It was just a written article. So whether it's being done prior to what's going on at the moment or not, it's come out at a time when I think mental health is a big focal point at the moment. Certainly over the last 2 or 3, 4 weeks, people have been stuck at home now, locked at home for, coming up to 10 weeks, something like that now. And mental health has been something that a lot of people have been struggling with, even more than they would usually be struggling with because of the circumstance, because people can't get out, they can't meet up with their friends, they can't have that social element which helps massively, they can't play a lot of sport. Okay, now recently in the last week or so we can go out and we can do more and we can play more sports, whatever, but in the previous 8-7 weeks we couldn't. So again, it's been a massive thing recently, more so than normal because of the current circumstances and the current situations. And obviously, Michael Keane's come out and he's had that interview and he's spoken about, like you said earlier on, how a little injury, which he was going to come back from, and he did come back from, caused such a mental problem for him and his mental health issues, and he said he didn't have a breakdown. He would say, well, he got very close to it, he hit his rock bottom, which again, I suppose I'm not to judge Michael Keane, or I'm not to judge what he would determine as a breakdown, but for me, if I was to get to my rock bottom, I would say I was having a mental breakdown. I've been there before, and I can say that again. Like I said, I'm not saying that on behalf of Michael Keane because I can't, but obviously just to put it into the current situation in the world, there's a lot of talk about the return of football, and we've spoken about it on camera, off camera, multiple times, about whether it should return, when it'll return, when it won't return. We've spoken about it far too many times, and I think we both know, Mike, that football is going to return at some point. For me, I think we'll be watching Premier League games this time within the next month or so, maybe 6 or 7 weeks. I think we'll be watching Premier League games again. And a lot of players have come out and expressed their issues with that, the fact that football is coming back, and expressed their worries about that situation. We've had Sergio Aguero, we've had Raheem Sterling, we've had Soidini, we've had Danny Rose, we've had Glenn Murray, we've had numerous players, but I want to pick out two, and that is Danny Rose and Soidini. And Danny Rose come out, and again, he had an interview, and he's been quite open, Danny Rose, about how he feels about the return to football, and he said one thing which again really resonated with me, and again follows on to the theme of the stream as to why we need to remember that footballers are just human beings as well as the rest of us. And he said that he feels like they're being treated like lab rats, or he is being treated like a lab rat. And when you hear a footballer say that, a footballer on 60,000-70,000 pound a week, living a luxury life, you do sit back and you think, well, hang on, why do you feel like that? There must be a general consensus between footballers where they're all sort of coming together as to think, well, we seem to be the only ones that are getting forced into a return here to sport. You know, rugby isn't getting a forced return. Boxing, okay, there's some talk about July, but there's no pressure on it. There seems to be a lot of pressure on football. And again, Danny Rose coming out saying he feels like a lab rat, pretty much coming out saying he feels dehumanised, all mixes into this idea of that maybe, you know, as fans, maybe as the FA as an authorisation, the Premier League as an authorisation, sometimes forget that footballers are just human beings like the rest of us. And certainly in Troy Deeney's case, which is a lot more blatant, Troy Deeney come out and said, I'm not coming back to training because I've got a small young child who has got respiratory problems, and the reason I'm not coming back is because I ain't risking passing something on to him which could be deadly to him. Now, Danny Rose, you could have your argument about whether he doesn't want to come back for his own sake and he wants to just have a few more weeks off, or whether he's generally fearful. You could have that argument with a lot of players that have come out and expressed their worries, but you cannot have that argument with Troy Deeney, because he has come out straight away and said, I'm not coming back because I've got a young child who will be put at risk if I do come back. And you have to respect that. You cannot not respect that, and you cannot disagree with that. If footballers do not want to come back and play football, they shouldn't be forced to come back and play football. And I also don't think they should have their wages taken off them either. Certainly in a situation like Troy Deeney, David Silva's another player who I don't think he's come out publicly, but I know he's got a young son who had a lot of issues when he was born, a lot of health issues when he was born. I dare say David Silva isn't chomping at the bit to get back because of that. Again, it's important that we treat this subject in this situation with as, you know, with as much sort of, you know, I don't know what the word I'm looking for, as good as possible, as well as possible, and we don't just think, well, they're just footballers, they're just getting paid loads of money, so go out there and play. Because I have seen some people on Twitter, some people on social media saying, well, they're getting paid £100 a week, so they should just go out and play, when it's not like that, is it?
No, and the thing is, Troy Deeney, yeah, he come out straight away. Fair play to him. He come out straight away. But it shouldn't even get like that. You know, the facts are, right, you haven't been able to see your girlfriend properly in weeks. Yeah? Right? However, Gabarmin can fly through the back of Andre Gomez on a training pitch. Mm-hmm. How the fuck does that make sense?
Yeah.
You know, how does it make sense that we are social distancing out there, but players are going back to training? Yes, there might be 2 meters apart. Yes, they may be kicking a ball away from each other. Yes, maybe they hand sanitize the ball before anyone picks it up to practice throw-ins. It's all a load of bollocks. Football is a contact game, and there's no way that if coronavirus is still there in and around the players. I mean, Brighton had players tested. You know, John mentioned it in my video last night. If they've done something like 1,700 tests or something like that, and 10 players have come out and have got coronavirus, you can't keep training and you can't keep playing because you don't. They've been tested. They've been tested in the same environment as other players.
Yeah.
So the virus will potentially go to other people. It's just a farce. Yeah. The game isn't the game that we sign up to watch. It's not. Contacting each other in training is a must.
Yeah.
And if you can't physically do that, which you fucking can't right now, I don't understand why they're doing it. And Danny Rose is right. He's absolutely right to come out. He's very vocal. He was vocal about Pochettino. He was vocal about Tottenham. He was vocal about wanting to move. And he's being vocal now when he's coming out and saying this shouldn't be happening. So what pissed me off even more today was the fact that Premier League unanimously agreed that they're going back to training. Yeah. So that means the clubs, yet again, are not listening to their own players. Yeah. And that is fucking criminal. Yeah. That is criminal. That means not only is the Premier League treating them like lab rats, their own clubs are treating them like lab rats. Now, I'm telling you now, Troy Deeney, if Watford say to him, we expect you back on Monday, and he goes to them, nah, I ain't coming back.
Yeah.
It's going to leave a sour taste in his mouth that Watford are trying to get him back.
Yeah.
He's the captain of Watford. It It's fucking scandalous. The whole situation is shocking, and I feel it's mad that I'm saying this, but the media put so much attention on footballers. The government put so much attention on footballers, and the simple fact of the matter is, you've got nurses, firemen, ambulance drivers who have put themselves in this situation since day one. They've been the lab rats. They earn a tenth, a 20th of what footballers earn, right? You've got government ministers who are on probably 4 times what those nurses and whatever are on, making decisions that are fundamentally causing issues. Now, whether you vote Labour or Conservative, it doesn't matter. On this stream, it doesn't matter. The facts are, the world is fucked and needed to just stop. Football needs to stop. You know, to stop the virus where it was to where it is now, a lot has been done. Very clearly, a lot's been done. We went into lockdown for weeks, blah, blah, blah. The furlough scheme, blah, blah, blah. But the simple fact of the matter is, you should not be bringing contact sports back before you can go and hug your mum and dad. It's just fucking madness. It really is.
I agree, spot on, 100%, and that's been a big frustration of mine, and I think a big frustration of a lot of people's is the same. Well, hang on, I can't go and see my mum who I haven't seen for 10 weeks, I can't go and see my girlfriend who I haven't seen for 12 weeks, but I can watch 11 men, or 22 men even run around the football field, all from different families, all from different households, having contact with each other. And again, I watched the Bundesliga 2 weeks...
Playing a training game. Playing a fucking training game.
Exactly. I watched the Bundesliga 2 weeks ago and it was dreadful. It was absolutely dreadful. It wasn't entertaining. I watched the most entertaining game of the weekend on paper, a derby which ended 4-0, and I've never been so bored watching a game of football in my life. And the players were contacting with each other. They were jumping up for headers, they were elbowing, they were slide tackling, they were getting close to each other. So why is that allowed? But again, like you said, we can't go and see our parents, or we can't go and see our partners, or we can't see our children in some cases as well. It's mental, and N'Golo Kante is another player who's come out and actually gone a little bit under the radar now, and I don't know why, because the Troy Deeney thing's been blown out and the media have jumped on that, the Danny Rose situation's been blown out and the media have jumped on that, but N'Golo Kante's come out and said, I ain't returning to football again. He's come out and said if it does return, he'll be out for the rest of the season because of fears. And nobody's really spoken about it, which I thought was a little bit strange. And I don't know why, that hasn't had the media attention that the situation with Troy Deeney has, and the situation with Danny Rose. Just before we finish up, and we'll get into the live comments briefly after we finish, I want to talk about social media a little bit in regards to mental health and in regards to footballers, being human beings as the whole topic of the live stream. Myself and you, we've seen a lot of situations, certainly recently. I don't want to name any names because I'm not going to do that. Situations where, let's say, Evertonians and football fans in general have put out a cry for help in the form of a tweet, or express that they're struggling a lot and they need they need help, and that they're not in a very, very good place. And a situation happened about a week or so ago where this happened, and it was a certain user, and they seemed very distressed, and it wasn't looking great. The response that tweet got from Evertonians, from football fans across the country, was absolutely mind-blowing. It had hundreds and hundreds of replies of people saying, DM me, message me, everything's going to be okay. People putting paragraphs about their own story and how they managed to get through it, and giving advice and saying, call this number, do this, do that. So much advice, and it's amazing. That's the positive side of social media, is that somebody can be very, very stuck in themselves and at that rock bottom point, and 100 people can reply with nice messages and positivity and offering help, and you've done it previously, like I said, offering your phone number to speak to fans and to have that conversation with fans, and ultimately get the help that those people desperately need. And it's just by talking, it's just by reaching out, it's just by putting that one tweet out. And like I said, that certain situation, hundreds of people were involved, hundreds of people were making sure that the person was okay and the person was safe and they got home safe. And I think, although Michael Keane isn't going to say, here's my phone number, give us a call up, I need a conversation, I think it's important that the way we treat each other on social media when we come out and say we're struggling and we need help, and the love and the help that we give each other, I think we need to adopt similarly with footballers as well, as to say that if a footballer comes out and says, listen, I'm struggling, or I've had a tough time, the least we can do is sort of go, you know what, we won't criticise them. We'll stand back a little bit and we'll understand that.
Yeah, and look, that situation last week. I mean, the problem you have on social media, a lot of people write things for attention.
Yeah.
Okay, say right.
Yeah.
And I've been there. I've been at the very lowest of that spectrum. I have been where that guy was.
Yeah.
I know what it is like to consider that's it.
Yeah.
Right. Some people out there just want a bit of love.
Yeah.
Just want a little bit of support.
Yeah.
Just want a little bit of an interaction, maybe a like, maybe a comment.
Yeah.
Not everyone that puts on social media, I'm feeling depressed, I want to kill myself, is actually going to do it.
Yeah.
But what they're calling for is that little bit of help, that little bit of a shoulder to cry on, that little bit of a DM that they can say, oh, I'm just having a bad time at the minute. There was an example, and you mentioned it earlier. There was a guy called Bradiker on social media. It was a guy who was struggling just after New Year's Eve. Brad's become a friend. He's become a friend. And I do not believe at any point was he seriously on the floor.
Yeah.
I do not believe that. But what I do believe is that a genuinely nice guy just wanted a mate, just wanted someone that he could speak to. And I was lucky enough to be that person, because I'm telling you now, I'd move heaven and earth for that guy. Just like John, when I was on my arse, going to quit the channel, I'm done. John was there. Now, me quitting the channel goes from having the attention every week of, say, 1,000 views to having no views, but everyone thinking, what happened to that Mike guy? Is Mike okay? Yeah. So it's a different attention. Yeah. John was there for me. Yeah. People get to the point where they are seriously bad, in mental place, really bad. And we have to do as much as we can as a fan base, as a community, to support that. When I used to put things out because I knew someone at the club and he used to give transfer information, I used to share it. A lot of that stuff ended up being correct, and I still was abused. I had DMs. I got called out on it. People wanted to fight me, were calling me fat, all sorts of shit. I had it on YouTube when I first started, when people were saying, you're just a stupid wall brummer who don't know fuck all about Everton. They didn't know my background. People are, and I'll say this, and fucking I'm really sorry, I'm probably fucking your monetization on this particular video.
That's all right.
But people are cunts. Yeah. People are cunts, and people get a kick from seeing people really suffer. Yeah. Would they get that same kick with that person hanging in front of them? No, I don't think they would. I think they'd bottle it. I think they'd fucking fold. And this is why Everton in the community, Everton as a community, Everton fans as a group of people, if I can't stick up for you and you can't stick up for another blue without some twat saying something horrible, what's the fucking point? Yeah. And this is where more has to be done with each individual person on social media to assess the situation and go, that guy needs my help, or that guy needs a message. And look, you know, it's the first thing that if ever I search for anything, I always type in certain words: struggling, money. You know, fucking hell, I shouldn't be saying it. You know, I've give. I'm checking because the missus don't know, but you know, I've give people like money through PayPal to make sure that they've got a roof over their head. I don't know if they're being genuine. They could just have robbed me a 20 quid, but I know that for 20 quid they can put themselves in a 10 quid hostel. They can go and get themselves a £3 meal. Yeah. They can go and use a toilet for 20p, and hopefully someone can give them a shower. Yeah. And that makes me sleep at night. Yeah. We need to do more of it. As a group of people, we need to do more of it. Charity starts at home, and we need to all fucking learn it. Yeah. Mentally, look, I've been there. I've seen the worst of it. I've felt the worst of it. I've been very close. It's not nice. And social media, as you say, that guy last week who was standing there on that bridge and he gave us all an update in the morning. How do you or me or anyone actually know that he didn't want to be bombarded with phone numbers? Yeah. He didn't want all that attention. Maybe he just wanted one person to send him a message and say, mate, do you need a chat? Yeah. Maybe the fact he got so much attention made him feel worse. And this is where you don't know with mental health. You do not know how bad a situation is until you're genuinely having a one-to-one conversation. So I didn't comment on that guy last week because I saw that he had 100 comments. He didn't need me joining in.
Yeah.
He just needed to speak to one person. And that is all it takes.
Yeah. Spot on. Couldn't have put it better myself. And that's why it's important to speak out, and that's why it's important to learn as much as we can learn. Because, like you said, if someone's lying in front of you with a broken leg, you assess the situation and you say, he's got a broken leg. He needs to be taken to hospital. To fix that broken leg, you're probably in pain because you've got a broken leg. If somebody's sitting in front of you with mental health problems, it's a whole world that could be happening, that they could be thinking, that they could be feeling. It's virtually impossible to know unless that person expresses those feelings and speaks. And like you said, it only takes one person to say, yeah, mate, do you want to chat? Do you want to talk? Do you want to, here's my phone number, let's have a 10-minute chat. And that person could, A, feel 10 times better for it and be in a better situation, and B, you then learn, what's going on and what the problem is, and it gives you the greater understanding. Spot on. We'll fly through a couple of comments because I know that you're a busy guy and you've got a new puppy to look towards. Wayne says, fave to YouTubers, it's thank you very much. As I says, hi Cam, hope you, Mike and family are well. Is right, Mike, thank you very much. God says humans cannot be perfect all the time. Exactly, spot on. Hazard says, sorry to hear you're supposed to be getting married today, Mike. Hope the next date you pick goes well. There you go.
It's literally this date next year.
This date next year. So there you go. Fingers crossed. Wayne says, you're right, off-field family life can affect their game. There's also levels, and some players will get breathing space than others. That's just the way it is. Maybe some players do get treated differently than others. As it says, come on people, it is right, Mike and Wayne, thank you very much. It's your channel, but I assume it's John in the comments, says 400 odd deaths today and they think it's okay to bring the Prem back. I know it's been a bank holiday, but normally them figures are only affected on a Tuesday. Abigail says, it's what I've been saying for weeks, don't bring it back until it's safe. Exactly, spot on. God says, it just proves that money is more important to clubs than their own players' safety. That might be the sad thing about it. Mitchell says, they're a human, but they aren't in the most privileged position on the planet. I don't feel sorry when Kyle Walker has a sex party and follows it up saying he's depressed. Well, that's a different situation, isn't it? That's a situation where a player's come out and broke the rules a couple of times and then made the statement. But yeah, that's another difficult one.
But again, and I've also seen his comment saying that it's getting way too political. Look, people make mistakes, and people make numerous mistakes over and over again. It happens. Yeah. That doesn't mean you don't feel mentally shit. Yeah. It doesn't mean that after the first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh mistake you make, you do not feel fucking terrible. Yeah. However, people will have less sympathy for it, and I understand that completely. I have a lot less sympathy for Kyle Walker, but I'm still not saying that he doesn't have a problem or he doesn't have a mental issue.
Yeah, no.
I just have less sympathy for that issue.
Yeah, I agree. Spot on. Anyway, that's going to do it for today's live stream. We'll wrap it up there then. I hope you all have enjoyed. If you have, please do hit that like button. Like I said, it's not the nicest thing to talk about, but it's something that needs talking about, especially when you've got a player of our own football club who we watch week in, week out, who we've seen join, who we've seen go through good times and go through bad times. It's important when a player like that comes out and discusses his own struggles that we sit down and we talk about it and we understand it as well. Because Michael Keane has had an up and down career at Everton Football Club so far. One week he's absolutely unbelievable, and next week he struggles, and sometimes you just think, oh, maybe he's just an inconsistent player who's lacking confidence, and then you read articles like this and you read things like this and you think, well, maybe there's a deeper reasoning behind it, and that's why it's important to sit down and talk about these. If you've enjoyed, like I said, do hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you're new as well. Massive thank you for all of the support recently. Flying towards 1,800 subscribers now, so I really do appreciate if you could hit that subscribe button, share the stream as well. Big thanks to everybody for getting involved in the live comments. If you're watching as a YouTube video, leave your thoughts and comments in the comment section down below, and we'll be going through them. Anything to say, Mike, before we finish up? Thanks for coming on as well. Massive thanks for joining us.
No, mate, I really appreciate you asking me on this. Guys, honestly, look, thanks ever so much for some of the kind comments as well. Like, there's some really nice comments in there that's genuinely touched me. Your comments as well earlier, it means a lot because sometimes it's not necessarily that I'm after praise or anything, but sometimes in life, people, you just want to be seen to be doing the right thing, and as a true blue, I just want to be seen to be doing the right thing, and it's nice that people can see that. And one of the last things I just want to point out is, look, if you are suffering, if you are suffering, if you need someone to talk to, my DMs are open. I'm sure Cam's DMs are open. I'm more than happy to do what I can. Like, I really am. I'm not in a great place myself today. I feel really shit. I feel really low. Don't get me wrong. I'm not at the bottom of the spectrum, but yeah, I feel shit. And that's fine. You can do that. And the fact that I've come on here now, I've been able to say my piece, give a little bit of attention. That makes me feel much better. So, guys, thank you ever so much for supporting me as well today. I really appreciate it.
There you go, spot on, spot on. Colin says, what's up, lads? Great content today. Thank you very much. Mitchell says, fair play, Mike. I agree with you. Agree with that. Wayne says, have a good week, lads. Appreciate it as always. And Hazard says, a brilliant live team, Cam and Mike. And Eugene says, thumbs up to the NHS staff right now as well. There you go. Massive, massive thumbs up. If you enjoyed, like I said, please do hit the like button. It means a massive amount to me. Don't forget to subscribe if you're new. Listen, Mike's link to his channel is down in the description. Go and give him some love. I'm sure you'd already subscribed anyway, but if you're not subscribed, go and watch his recent videos, plural. Give them a watch, give them a like as well. I'll be back with another video, 5:15 PM tomorrow. We're talking Carlo Ancelotti and his in-game management, so have a little check out of that if you like. But big thanks for watching. Check out Mike in the description down below. If you enjoyed, leave a like, and I'll see you soon on the Mighty Blues.